I'd like to introduce our team. I'm new to this team and very honored and frankly humbled to be a part of it. I'll start from the opposite end. First, I wanted to acknowledge Vish Krishnan, who is one of the most distinguished scholars in business and entrepreneurship in this country and a founding member of the Rady faculty. I want to certainly acknowledge Kim Davis, a serial entrepreneur, a successful investor, and the architect, if you will, of StartR as we know it. And Diana and Karen, invaluable team members who are really the engine behind the entire activity of the center. And I'm not talking Volkswagen, I'm talking sort of Porsche and Mercedes style engine. And I also want to note and reiterate Lisa's comments about mentorship and our networks. They are fundamental to our team, and growing ethical, deep, and a broad base of mentors and networks are critical to our success. So thank you all for joining us, and I'll kick it over to Kim.
So welcome everyone to StartR Demo Day. The StartR program actually started back in 2012 with My Startup XX. And you can see now we have an umbrella of 6 different tracks of programs. My Startup XX is now StartR Inclusion, focused on diverse teams. We have our flagship project, StartR Rady, which is Rady alumni and current Rady students. StartR Teens, which has the teen program. StartR Veterans with our veterans, and then StartR Inclusion, which is a social impact. And then our newest program for 2021-2022 is StartR Blue. Tonight, you'll be hearing from 7 teams from these programs. And the format will be 6-minute presentations followed by Q&A from our judges. We have 3 judges I'll be introducing. And then audience, if you have any questions, you can put those in chat and the teams can respond. We always love to give an update of what's happening with all our StartR teams. So over this almost 10 years, it'll be 10 years in September from the very first program, we have helped 266 startup teams. We're now up to $212 million in terms of funding of StartR teams. And we just had another exit. So we'll make 5 exits. And you'll also see that our alumni teams are very busy. In fact, they're starting other companies as well. So 9 alumni teams have started new companies. So a little update, I alluded to the exit that we had. Visionful was sold, it was a StartR Rady Fall team, was sold to Cloud Structure just this month. We've also have some great news with Home Lab, which was Julio's company, has announced a partnership with 2 life science REITs. They have a home lab in Torrey Pines, as well as a home lab on the UCSD campus. Nevega Therapeutics with Anna Marina successfully raised $8 million of SBIR funding, and now is poised to be closing a venture round shortly. And then Zergo Health, which was formerly Clarify Medical, Martin Gross's company, this October raised another $43 million. So we're very proud of all of our StartR alumni and very grateful that they always include us in their updates and what's been going on. So I'd like to introduce our judges. So our first judge, Caitlin Wegge, is very influential in the San Diego startup community. She has her own investment firm, as well as she's the president and chair of the Tech Coast Angels. And then second, we have Jason Knapp. I had the pleasure of working with at Evo Nexus. He's a serial entrepreneur, angel investor, and also founder of a new company called Crafted Pour. And then finally, Olin Hyde, who is a StartR alumni, has a company called Lead Crunch. It was a founding company and the first CEO, and a serial entrepreneur doing other startups. So those are our 3 startups for tonight's program. So we're going to start off tonight by giving you an alumni update. Suman was in the class of Rady for 2014 with a company called IRA. He has now started another company focused on AI and human knowledge. And he's going to give you an update about what he's been doing with personal AI.
Thanks, Kim. Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you all. It's always fun to go back to StartR events. Real quickly on personal AI, I started this company 2 years ago after exiting my previous company, Ira. We did a $5.9 million in seed and going after Series A right now, launching the product. In short, personal AI is almost like a digital parallel living memory of your life in the form of AI. Kim also kind of mentioned, talking a little bit about my connection to StartR and what does it mean to me. Almost 7 years ago, I'm sure some of them in here are like first-time entrepreneurs. We always probably have some idea and we have a lot of conviction on how our background or our skills are kind of potentially fulfill that conviction to come to reality. But I guess what happened in my life, and I believe mostly what will happen with most of the first-time founders, is that there's a lot more to running a company, to executing on a vision, to recruiting the teams. And I found just being in a group of people or like-minded people, surrounding yourself with other founders, will all of a sudden start to unlock these conversations that you never probably experienced before. So I think one of the most beautiful things about being in a group, being in a program like StartR is to just having like set of people whom you can have a conversation with for the topics that you have never experienced before. And the second thing I would also mention is just generally, we tend to take a lot of chances, right? That's what we are all about, founders, and sometimes we always think about success coming with luck. But one of the famous sayings is that you always need to put yourself in multiple different places because you never know when the opportunity will come to you. And I think StartR and the platforms that it will provide, and generally the network that you would all of a sudden unlock, is about taking the chances. You never know what, like I came in here, I never know what kind of opportunities will be in here for me and for you as well. So yeah, so I'm like super excited to come and kick this off. Good luck for all the teams. I did this, I don't know, like 6 years ago. And just have fun with it. I think at the end of the day, most of the demo days are about having fun and gaining experience and educating other people what you are working on. So I guess that's about it, Kim. Thanks a lot for having me.
Great. Thank you, Saman. And everyone check out Personal AI, the website. He's raised $5.9 million and they've been working hard on the software. So tonight, our first company to present is from our StartR Impact. We're going to hear from Kronos, Jose, to tell you a little bit about his product.
Hello, everybody, and I'm trying. Okay, now I can share my screen. Great. Let's get things. Great. Well, good afternoon. I am Jose Suarez and founder of Cryos Personal Cooling, and I am here to talk to you about a problem. There are millions of people that have to work many hours in hot settings, such as firefighters, the military, or airplane operators. And the problem is that there are inadequate personal cooling solutions available to such workers. Now, I am a physician. I am a professor at UC San Diego, and I can tell you that working in hot settings is a problem. In fact, there are about 1,300 people dying each year due to hot weather in the United States. And there are 71,000 heat-related emergency room visits per year. Now, OSHA, which is the regulating body that protects workers' health, requires employers to implement heat precautions at temperatures above 91 degrees Fahrenheit. And global warming continues to get worse, and I can think of a myriad of reasons of why I would personally benefit from staying cool. For example, when I'm watching a parade at 90 degrees Fahrenheit in Florida, or in Phoenix at over 100 degrees. So for this reason, at Cryos, we have been working on developing a portable battery-powered cooling vest, which is meant to provide an adequate amount of comfortable cooling and temperature regulation to their users. We have been working through multiple prototypes, and our latest prototype includes our most advanced technology with substantial improvements in performance and efficiency. It includes a smart controller for automatic temperature regulation and interchangeable batteries, which will allow for hours of cooling. And we have our own app with which the user can then communicate using a smartphone and control the unit and communicate with it. Now, here's some of the pictures of the prototypes that we have been developing over the years, starting in 2020 with prototype number 1. Prototype number 2 came up in 2021, and right now in the spring, in just a couple months, we will have prototype number 3 ready. This is the team. So I am the founder at Cryos, and I'm an associate professor. And a bulk of the research and work that I do is understanding how the environment affects people's health. Also in the team is Vladimir Melnick, who is an incredibly smart mechanical engineer, and he's been at the core of some of the products and technological advancements that we've been working on. And we've also been working with some senior mechanical engineering students here at UC San Diego, including Ian, Ori, Stella, and Yang. And right now we're interested in expanding the team and including somebody with an MBA or with interest in business administration, marketing, and also setting up an advisory board. So the Cryos vest is meant to have an active and on-demand cooling, meaning that a user, wherever they are, may all the user has to do is switch on, turn on the vest, and then they get cooling immediately. And so some of the solutions that exist right now, such as the FlexiFreeze or the Comp Cooler, they require a freezer to be close by. So you plug the units in there and then you have to put them in the freezer for a while, which is not really a viable solution in the day-to-day because it's not like we have freezers laying around in the environment everywhere we go. Another solution, which are ventilated jackets, they don't work because they're pumping in the hot air from the environment. So a real true competitor becomes the Comp Cooler backpack. And so the Comp Cooler backpack is designed to provide 150 watts of cooling, whereas ours, our latest version provides 350 watts of cooling, so much more powerful. Ours is designed to have replaceable batteries, so which will provide for hours and hours of cooling. And also ours is the only one to have a smartphone controller. So the personal cooling device market is fragmented. There's a lot of a number of small companies involved in this market. And the overall TAM here for personal cooling device market in the United States was of 1.7 billion. Now this is pretty wide because it includes things like personal air conditioners, desk fans, handheld cooling devices. So we're actually going through for a segment of that. And so our initial customers, we would like to focus, first of all, using a business-to-business model to begin with, focusing on sales of vests and seasonal rentals. And our initial customers will be airlines, particularly working on tarmac operators, also with fire departments and in the armed forces. So with a serviceable market estimated at between 20 and 27 million. This is focused now on the 4 southwestern states of the US, so California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada. This is estimated also by the percentage of use that we think, in addition to the sheer number of people in the military, which you can see there of 208,000 firefighters, 14,000. And so from that, the serviceable obtainable market is estimated to be between 4 and 5.4 million to begin with. So this is the trajectory. So since we started this project, this idea, in 2021, we have now worked through multiple prototypes, as we showed you earlier. And we've additionally done some beta product validation with the Army Corps, which then helped us shape prototype number 2. Now we've been finalists at the Triton Innovation Challenge last year at UCSD, and we're getting ready to launch a company later this year. So what we seek at this moment is to expand our team really and include a business a team member with a business acumen interested in entrepreneurship and sales, and also engaging with mentors and setting up an advisory board. As in the near future, I'd be very interested in going through a first round of fundraising, so we can then continue with the business market analysis, continue with product development, and then bring in strategic partners to help us with the manufacturing and distribution. So thank you very much for your attention at Cryos, where we're keeping people comfortable, healthy, and productive in hot settings. I am Jose Suarez, again, founder at Cryos, and here is my email, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jose. And then judges, if you would, I'd like to raise your hand if you have a question, and then we'll spotlight you.
I'm just wondering if this has consumer applications, because it seems like with climate change, this could have a much larger market. And related to that question would be what sort of price points you're thinking that this product will have, because that would obviously affect how widely it could be adopted.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Great questions. So yeah, so the long-term vision is really to turn things, just like we wear jackets when it's cold, why aren't we wearing cooling devices when it's hot? So turning that into a regular garment that people would own. So that's the really long-term, the big vision that we have for this. So indeed, so we are just starting with this venture. And so our initial customers, we want to focus on those that, first of all, are required by law somehow to have some sort of protection to heat, because we have OSHA, as I mentioned earlier. And that's one of the reasons why we're going, I want to talk to airlines and firefighters and the military, because we know that there are big concerns about heat related illnesses in those groups. And then from then on, as things scale up, then we can start thinking about individual users for that matter. Currently, we are in the prototyping stage. So we're now on prototype number 3. So from there, it's kind of hard right now to start thinking about specific numbers of what it is that we would be selling it for. I can tell you that our closest competitor with a pump cooler, they sell it at a really high price. It's something like almost $3,000 for a unit. In the way that we've been manufacturing things and designing, really thinking about making it easier to manufacturing, it'll be far less expensive than that. But I can't give you an exact number right now because we're not quite there yet.
And then Caitlin has a question.
Hi, Caitlin.
Hi. So quick question. You talked about firefighting. It's actually a double question, but it's about the technology. Is the vest itself heat resistant? Does it have any qualities about it that's not going to melt? Or
are you thinking like exposed to fire per se?
Well,
like,
if a firefighter is wearing it underneath their uniform, even though that's a fire resistant uniform, it gets really, really hot. And that, so, it'd have to work against, the cooling would have to work against that extreme heat. So I was just asking about like, how does it regulate? Because the other question was, is there an optimal temperature that you want to keep somebody depending on what situation they're in, right? It would be different for the airlines, different for the firefighters. And do you know what that optimal temperature is? Or is it just, they just do it according to what they feel?
Yeah, so it has a couple of components for the temperature question. So the whole idea is to try to bring it down to a temperature that the user feels comfortable with. In the end, how we feel is a pretty subjective thing, right? So you may feel comfortable at 84 degrees. I may feel comfortable at 71 degrees, right? So that's the whole point. So what we're trying to do is try to reach temperatures that the user wants and try to stay within a range, typically between 70 degrees and 82 degrees. So the user can then tweak it, but of course it can go much warmer than that, but we're trying to keep it within those ranges. For your other question with regards to what temperatures this works at, well, we've been testing this, and we probably saw it in one of the pictures there. We've been testing this in saunas going up as high as 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and we feel like that is probably a limit of how high we want to go with it, because anything beyond that is pretty grueling. It's pretty difficult really to maintain anything not burning, especially if they're going to be in the middle of a forest that is burning. yes, we can cool them, but it really depends on how close they are to a flame. So we haven't done any flammability tests yet for that matter, but we're pretty comfortable that at 110 degrees, we should be able to provide an adequate amount of cooling. Hopefully that answers your question.
And then our last question, Olin, and then just let's keep it a little bit more concise. So Olin.
Yeah, really quick. What is your 2-year gap? How do you create a moat around this? And there's 2 ways I'm looking for is what is your, it seems like it's a pretty easy thing to do. So what's defensible about it? And the second side is why isn't there a market for this already? Why it seems like kind of an obvious thing. Why haven't people built this at scale already?
Yes, correct. So we've been working on a couple of different things. So we've been introducing some new technology that has not been accounted for. If you think about refrigeration, the way refrigeration works traditionally, even in a home or in a car, hasn't really changed in the last 25, 30 years. And so one of the advantages is that now we're able to miniaturize it, so we can have these units that weigh a little over 5 pounds. Which is really not that much when you talk about a whole refrigeration system. But we've also been working on thermoelectrics. And with thermoelectrics, things can be made a lot smaller. So the actual cooling blocks end up being very small units like this big. So that's one of the challenges. The other challenge is, of course, the price point. And that's a big part of what we've been working on, how to manufacture this a lot cheaper. So if you think about our closest competitor, just the vest component without any of the cooling costs about $400. Now we figured that we can manufacture a product that is much better than theirs, and it will cost us a tiny fraction about what that would be. It would be less than $20 to manufacture. Probably wouldn't be less than $10 to manufacture, to tell the truth. So it's really trying to get at how well we can make it so we can produce this at a scalable and much less expensive way. So those are, I think, a couple of the barriers.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jose.
It's my pleasure to introduce the next team from our StartR Inclusion program. I'd like to introduce Mark Fever from Lift Seltzer. Mark is a 3-degree alum of UCSD, biology and bioinformatics, and also an MBA from Rady 2013. Mark?
Thanks, Tim, for the introduction. I think Jose might have to stop sharing his screen so that I can share. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So my name is Mark Thaver, and I'm the founder and CEO of Lift Seltzer. We make microdose cannabis-infused sparkling beverages. So before starting Lift, I spent several years in management consulting, focusing on product development optimization, supply chain optimization, and cost mitigation. I'm a member of the Cannabis Beverage Association, and I'm a certified new product development professional. And as Tim mentioned, I have 3 degrees from UCSD. Just to start with a quick anecdote about why I started Lift Seltzer. A few years ago, I actually cut alcohol out of my routine. And I quickly realized at that point how much of a centerpiece alcohol was to all my social interactions and things I do with my friends. So at that point, I was looking for something as an alternative to alcohol, and I started exploring cannabis. At that point in time, there were some cannabis beverages on the market that were super high dose, geared to really heavy users that just weren't for me because I'm a light user, super low tolerance. And at that point, I realized there's an opportunity there for a very low dose cannabis infused sparkling beverage that just tastes great, that people can drink in much the same manner as they would be drinking alcoholic drinks. And that's where the idea for Lift Seltzer was born. So to grow this business, I'm working with several partners, ranging from branding professionals to creative communications and marketing professionals. We also have 2 advisors on the company right now, focusing on operations and strategy and finance. So the US cannabis beverage market is growing right now, and it's growing rapidly at a 42% CAGR. It's going to be a $400 million market by 2024. In the cannabis beverage market, or in the cannabis market, consumer behavior shows a trend towards low and microdose products. And more broadly speaking, in the larger mainstream consumer population, 2/3 of us are looking for ways to reduce the amount of alcohol that we consume on a regular basis. But that same group of people still want something to drink casually and socially. And that's where Lift Seltzer comes in. So Lift Seltzer is an accessible, microdosed social seltzer. And so each can of Lift has a very mild, approachable dose of cannabis in there, just 2 milligrams of THC and 6 milligrams of CBD. These are very quick onset products. So you start to feel the effects in about 10 minutes. Low calorie, each can only has 30 calories. And our brand is all about accessibility and approachability to the novice user. So this is cannabis simplified. We take the guesswork out of cannabis. We let you know how to expect to feel, and we deliver on that expectation. These are social seltzers with a familiar form factor. So everyone's familiar with consuming a beverage in a social setting. It's just something we do as humans to socialize and interact. These are clean with natural flavors and organic ingredients. They taste great, but most importantly, you're in control of the experience. So with the quick onset, with the mild dose, you can see how you feel as you go, and you can stop after one can, or you can have several cans in a sitting. So what have we done to date? We've raised over $250,000 in funding so far. We formulated our drinks, and we listened to consumer feedback on experience and taste. We manufactured a 7,000 unit pilot batch, and then we launched in San Diego. And since we launched back in July of 2021, we expanded in California. Now we're in stores from San Diego all the way up to Sacramento. So our customers fall into two categories. The casual unwinders first. Those are the people who partake in cannabis casually or socially. And then the curious inquirers are the people who are interested in trying cannabis, but they don't really know where to begin with it. But more generally speaking, the consumer age group that we're targeting is age 25 through 44. And this is the millennial age group. And their characteristics are that they're young professionals or parents. They're looking for a quality product experience, and we span all genders. Now, in the competitive landscape, there are a few other drinks out there right now, but we win on approachability and drinkability. So approachability is all about the friendly branding, the understandable and approachable flavors, the non-intimidating experience of our products. And then drinkability refers to the like natural flavors, organic ingredients and stuff. But those are actually things that you don't really find too much of in many of the other offerings. There's a lot of artificial flavors and artificial ingredients in many other offerings. So our go-to-market strategy is multi-pronged. There's a lot of things that we're doing to increase awareness and convey the value of our brand to our consumers. But the two things I'd like to focus on for this talk are events and digital marketing. So events have been very important for us because it gives us a chance to educate consumers on the fact that you can drink cannabis. If you want to consume cannabis, you don't have to smoke it anymore. But it gives us a chance to give them samples of our beverage. And once people try it, they realize how great it tastes, and it really drives conversion and adoption. Digital marketing is very important for us because that is the primary way millennials discover and interact with new consumer brands. So we have a heavy presence on Instagram and digital. How are we growing? So we're introducing new flavors. We actually just introduced 2 new flavors last month, mango and passion fruit. They're really good. We're introducing a new product line in Q2, and this is actually very interesting. This is a proprietary functional beverage product line. So that's coming soon. We're going direct to consumer so people can buy directly from our website. We're doing store and brand collaborations. Actually, in Q2 and Q3 of this year, we have co-branded and bundled products that are in the pipeline. And then finally, and most importantly, we have a multi-state strategy. So expanding in California and then beyond California. And that's important because as legalization takes hold in many new states across the US, those are all new markets that are opening up. And when we're ready to pounce into those new markets, as soon as dispensaries are available, that's huge opportunity for us to grow our market. So right now we're raising $1 million on safe notes. Of that million, we've already raised $100,000, and that $1 million is meant to accomplish 4 specific goals. First, launching the 2 new microdose flavors in Q1, which we already did, so check. 2, launching our new product line in Q2, and that's the proprietary functional product line that I mentioned. 3, We're going to go statewide in California and at least 60 doors, dispensaries up and down the state. And then finally, we're going to open at least 2 new state markets outside of California by year end. So thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And if you'd like to get a hold of me, my email address is mark@liftbev.com.
So judges, please raise your hand and we will proceed with any questions you might have. Any questions? There we go. Olin, please.
Same question as last time, defensibility. It seems anybody can come out and just put less THC in an existing drink. How do you think about, distribution's a game here? Why wouldn't your competitors just copy it and execute?
Yeah, that's a great question, Olin. To be completely transparent and fair on this, like there are very low barriers to entry to creating a product like this. So what this really comes down to is that the fact that it's a CPG product. And what really drives a CPG product is how much people resonate with the brand. So this is a brand play. We're building a brand that's approachable to people, that opens the door to cannabis for people who wouldn't normally use it. And we create an easy entry point in that regard. So there are other brands who do cannabis beverages, who do some low dose cannabis beverages, but they all focus on different things. And we're the only one doing this easy entry point for new consumers. The second point I want to make on that is that we're introducing our new product line, which is a functional beverage. We're going to offer this new line that has 3 drinks that comprise that line. And each one's going to have a specific effect. So like an energizing effect, or like a socializing effect, or a calming effect. And that functional formula in that product line is actually proprietary to us. We created it and it's not available to anybody else.
Okay. Good answer.
Caitlin, please.
Yes, so I'm familiar with like traditional CPG, go-to-market and distribution. Is there any competitive advantage with scaling through distribution? Like, I don't know, it's not traditional distributors that would just, if you got into the retail space, right? I could see you if you got into the retail space. What does that look like? What does distributing into the cannabis retail space look like at scale?
How much time do you have?
Well, I mean,
and
the cost, like how does that affect your margins, right?
Yes, great questions. So distribution in the cannabis beverage space, or in the cannabis space in general, it's very interesting. It's very fragmented right now because cannabis is not federally legal, but it's legal in certain states. So the way things are structured is that you basically have to work within the microcosm of every state that you're in. Mm-hmm. So there are California licensed distributors who can take our product from our warehouse to the retail stores. And we just have to work within that structure until federal legalization happens. It's, the way things are right now, that's a significant cost to the way our business is run. We're inching closer to broader legalization where those types of costs are going to come down. But in terms of manufacturing costs and our margins and COGS, we feel the same types of pinch points as traditional CPG, where our primary cost drivers are our packaging and the actual cost of manufacturing.
Okay, I was just curious.
Jason, one final question.
Oh, yeah, my question's quick and related to Olin and Caitlin's question. If you're limited to selling into dispensaries, and I'm sorry if it was in there, but like what, maybe you can repeat it. If so, what is sort of the total market opportunity given that pretty significant limitation?
Sure, glad you asked that, and I'm glad I have a backup.
Okay.
So the cannabis beverage market specifically is growing very rapidly. It's going to be a $400 million market by 2024. And then over here on the other side of the screen, you can see our projected market share, the amount that we're expecting to take by 2024. We're looking at taking about 2.5% of that market, generating about $10 million in revenue by 2024.
Okay. And as a comment, if you, I'm sure you've thought about this way more than I have, but if you had a non-THC but CBD product, couldn't that be distributed more widely?
It could be. The problem with that is that everyone is getting into that. That market is not only saturated, it is super saturated. But it's something that we have considered. We give it serious thought. We have a quantitative analysis on the cost benefit, and it wasn't worth us getting into at this point.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
So next, I'm very happy to introduce our team Impact International. Maisha Cobb is a Rady alumni and is in the StartR Rady as well as the StartR Impact program.
Thank you, Kim. 150,000 employees quit their jobs every day in the months of November and December 2021. And while the Great Resignation has really elevated the idea of employee discomfort, and 60% of CEOs are saying that culture and talent is top of mind for them today, unfortunately for the bulk of them, they won't succeed in their programs. What's really happening, what's underlying the Great Resignation is often hidden, and that is a lack of openness and inclusion to new ideas and diverse perspectives. The lack of agency that's happening for employees today is leading them to feel undervalued, underutilized, and underappreciated. The result is a growing sense of cultures of silence and cultures of fear. I'm Maisha Cobb, and I started Impact International because we were interested in addressing the problem of lack of insight into the issues that were driving fear in organization and the lack of tools that were required to help build psychologically safe environments. I'm a psychologist, a Rady 21 alum, and a statistic as part of the Great Resignation. I quit my job last month for many of the reasons that I just outlined. What's interesting is that when you talk to CEOs, a lot of what's on their mind is the cost of replacing talent when they leave. What they don't seem to recognize is that fear and low inclusion is actually costing them for people who stay. They're usually getting, on average, based on our data, companies are getting about 40% ROI on their productivity dollars based on the amount of salary that they are paying. So there's a lot of money that is being wasted by employees who feel frustrated, who feel cynical, who are burned out, and who are just plain afraid to speak up. Unfortunately, today's landscape is anything but addressing the problem. So you have everything starting from disjointed HR programs, which really don't have the right line of sight to the problems as they're happening at the individual business unit or department level. You also have diversity, equity, and inclusion programs that are targeting the wrong problem. So a lot of those programs are focused on fairness versus how do we start to bring in the best ideas into our organization. And they don't motivate positive change. In fact, some of them make people feel worse. So what's our solution? Our solution is an employer culture insights platform so that designed to help employers measure, understand what's happening through custom algorithms, and to reinforce behaviors that are rooted in driving out fear, identifying what it means to have a psychologically safe work environment, and getting people to show up with their best ideas so that you're getting the return on your investment dollars. We see this as a huge market opportunity. Today, there's already about $10 billion that's being spent on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and another $20 billion that's being spent on employee engagement, employee resource group, and other types of retention programs. We believe that the key target for us today, however, is in academia. We see a huge demand coming from university settings where there is a mandate to start educating our future leaders on how to create the right cultures and create talent that's going to be sustainable and lasting. We also see a huge opportunity in technology firms who are interested in innovating and need their talent to show up, and also in the healthcare industry. So we anticipate that there's about a $4 billion serviceable addressable market for us, or obtainable market for us today. Milestones today. So we came up with this idea in July of 2020. By December of 2020, had a working beta. By February of 2021, we had our first kind of unpaid beta users. And then by October, we started getting big companies that were showing interest. So we signed a deal with Microsoft. We had an unpaid deal with Dell, and we just recently signed another contract with the business school out of New York. We have a patent pending, and our app is scheduled to launch in March of 2022. Our go-to-market strategy is twofold. We believe that the biggest opportunity is going to be targeting directly the firms that have issues with people feeling fearful and not feeling psychologically safe. We think we could start by targeting individual users, landing them, and getting them to start to galvanize and elevate our brand within the companies that they work in. The ultimate goal is to start getting subscriptions for the companies where this can be measured on a more frequent basis, and our tools can be used and integrated as part of the way that people work. The other model is by targeting diversity trainers who already are in the target market and licensing out our technology to them. We see a couple of competitive advantages for ourselves. I already mentioned the fact that there's a wrong line of sight within current and existing HR programs. Our analytics platform means that anyone at any part of the organization can get access to this information and can start measuring. So that decentralization is important. The subscription model also means that we're able to provide this data at your fingertips for a fraction of the cost that it would cost to bring in a full traditional type of HR program. And then the biggest opportunity for us is around the fact that we are psychologists and social scientists who are building this. And so the program is rooted in psychological principles. This is our team who is, we bring a range of experience across Fortune 500 companies. Our advisors have a series of successful exits. And I think it's just a testament to the product that we've been able to bring along so many impressive people on our journey with other people who are interested in joining us every day. Our ask is we're looking to start raising about $500,000 in pre-seed funding. We have a lot of technology needs to get the technology and the platform to where it needs to be. We want to start investing in sales to get the word out even more so than where we are, and marketing. We invite you to reimagine the future of diversity and inclusion with us, because when employees feel safe and valued, customer value grows too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Questions from our judges?
This is Olin. I don't know how to raise my hand, so I'll just go. Hi, Maisha. How do you, I think in full disclosure, we talked last week, and my question was, how do you dashboard results? Because to me, psychological safety is a method. The functional objective would be productivity or high team engagement, some type of competitive element. How do you think about that? Or if you have studies that show that what you're doing leads to a more competitive company?
So I showed you some of the stats that I had around the data, and we gotten that information, and we validated that the way we are measuring psychological safety is a leading indicator of some of the behaviors that I've talked about. And we know that those behaviors, when people don't speak up, when people are feeling afraid, we know that that's also linked to more attrition. So we know that it's going to save the company money. We also know that those same indicators are related to a lack of innovation. And so we're still very early in terms of looking at longitudinal, but I can tell you, we have seen results where people are speaking up more, where they are sharing ideas, and it does seem to be having a good impact in the workplace.
And Jason, you have a question?
Yeah, Olin kind of got towards my question, but I'll expand on a little bit. I'm trying to understand a little bit more about what the actual use of the product is in the environment. Like, is it, I'm imagining I feel like I've done it 1,000 times, the sexual harassment program that you do online at every corporation, that kind of thing. Although I like this idea of the assessment in there. Is it that sort of thing? Is it like I'm walking through like an electronic assessment of my knowledge and right and wrong answers about different scenarios, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so no right and wrong answers. And I think it probably does get to what Olin was asking too. So the assessment, the proprietary assessment is cornerstone to what we do. And I don't know about you, but I've worked in so many companies, and when we do our annual survey, it has these questions that just don't really matter, right? I'm not telling them the truth about the behaviors that are really hidden for me. And so we try to get to those hidden behaviors that we know people don't talk about. And coming out of that, we have some custom algorithms that start to paint a picture of how people feel in the organization. And that's a part of what we dashboard. But we also have things around, hey, this is the percentage of people who are fearful. And this is what it's costing you per employee for your employees to feel this way. The other part, though, of what we do, because people have told us, look, it's not enough to just measure it. We want some help. So the other part of what we do is we're using this app to help people identify, like, how are they likely to be showing up in the workplace? And we will give them tips and reinforcements every week so that they can actually get nudged in the direction of changing their behavior. So it's a little bit like Noom, right? But it's Noom for business. I think you could probably think of it that way.
That makes sense. I've tried that.
Great. Thank you very much, judges.
It's my pleasure to move on and introduce our next team, StartR Rady and StartR Impact participant. Lauren Hackney is a second-year MBA, and she will be talking to you about rooted reusables.
Thank you for the introduction, Tim, and good evening, everyone. My name is Lauren Hackney, and I'm a second-year MBA student at the Rady School of Management. And I want to start today by sharing my story with you all. I started my career working with leatherback sea turtles, which are classified as highly endangered. These are beautiful 6-foot-long, 2,000-pound creatures that primarily feed on jellyfish. So one night, a biologist and I were walking the beach and came across a nesting leatherback that was trying to lay but was in deep anguish. When we investigated further, we found fine remnants of a plastic bag that were clearly blocking her system. You can see the resemblance here between a plastic bag and a jellyfish. But this really put the life cycle of single-use plastic into perspective for me. We know that our environment is incredibly vulnerable to this material, yet we continue to produce it at an alarming rate. Every year, 380 million tons of single-use plastic is produced, and half of that is for single-use plastic. We are told that recycling is the solution, yet in California, only 15% of plastic is recycled. And some might pose the option of single-use alternative materials to plastic, like, say, corn plastic. But these are often much more expensive and are not durable for the many purposes that we need it for. So this leads us to a reuse option. According to Upstream and their Reuse Wins report, after only 2 washes, stainless steel cutlery breaks even with disposable cutlery for environmental impact. And after that, every use increases the environmental benefits. The Rooted Reusables team, which is comprised of 5 MBA students at Rady, have been working on customer development over the past couple of months to find potential customer pain points concerned with single-use plastic. We tested hypotheses for our original idea, which was to help events become zero waste. We wanted to provide a reusable foodware service for large organizations. We'll get more into that later. But we spoke to different customer segments, as you can see here on the screen. So it includes end users, brands, and retailers. And so what we learned, many companies stated that sustainability is more important than cost in many instances. However, across the board, food waste was the biggest concern due to recent legislations that have just been passed. This seemed to overshadow plastic initiatives and potential for reuse options in this space. But then there were another handful of companies that stated that they simply don't have the resources to act upon such reuse options and zero waste initiatives. And something that really surprised us was that plastic packaging isn't actually as cheap as we expected. For example, materials used in packaging can sometimes add up to 30% of the price of the item. So this is pretty shocking to us. And as one would expect from these times, every company stated issues with the supply chain and plastic resin shortages. So with many companies focused on food waste and knowing that packaging is not only costly, but incredibly wasteful and now difficult to obtain, we pivoted to providing a household and personal care refill solution for end consumers. Here's a glance at how the model would work on a university campus. So meet our primary persona, an environmentally conscious Gen Z named Sam, who is tired of throwing away perfectly good bottles after they've used the contents. Sam messages her friend to talk about the problem, and her friend lets her know that the Rated Reusables rig is going to be on their university campus tomorrow. Sam and their friend arrive at the Rated Reusables rig, and Sam gets to fill the empty bottle with shampoo. Sam is happy that another bottle does not have to go into the landfill. Sam goes home and does the math and finds that with only 8 of their most commonly used products, they go through 132 bottles in a 3-year period. And using Rooted Reusables, they can bring that down to just 20 recyclable containers. Sam loves that they can conveniently align with the zero waste life cycle within their community. And they can't wait to go back to fill up on hand soap, laundry detergent, dishwasher detergent, and so much more. So we are still in the ideation phase, and we are looking to interview more individual consumers to assess the willingness to use such initiatives like this. And just a couple of days ago, we had an insightful conversation that confirmed that business parks would be a viable customer segment for the reusable rig. So we were really excited about that and want to have more of those conversations as well. And we plan to closely follow new laws regarding single-use plastic, as well as come up with an improved reuse operational model to make sure that the model is convenient as possible for end users. So last summer, I was part of the Scripps Rady Ocean Plastic Pollution Challenge. And ever since, my team has been on a journey to find a solution to reduce plastic production by focusing on upstream solutions. So we are looking to test more of our new hypotheses by speaking to household product brands and personal care product brands. So if anyone has connections to these, I would greatly appreciate if you can email them to me to help us out. And thank you all so much for your time. And now I could take any questions.
Judges, if you would, please raise your hands. Caitlin, go ahead, please.
I know you said you're still kind of in the discovery phase. Have you done any initial numbers to see how viable the business is? There's been a couple of like soap refill, consumer product refill places here in San Diego, and they haven't lasted very long. One, the overhead. I mean, I guess this is mobile. So, and two, they, even with the loyal customer base, they weren't able to really grow out of like kind of the core users. And then even the core users, when they needed something in a pinch and they were closed, would end up buying something. And so that it wasn't exactly like very consistent.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I appreciate your feedback on those other stores. We're actually going to visit one on Friday that's been around for about 20 years. So maybe that's an exception. But we are working to get those numbers. Like we said, we are on the ideation phase. So that's definitely something that we want to assess.
Yeah, great.
Thanks.
I'm not sure if I'm seeing the hands. Jason.
I'm not sure I have much of a question. Let's see if it comes out as a question, but a little bit of commentary that it overlaps with Caitlin's. That things I think about are like the fuel use in the vehicle and whether there's an actual environmental benefit or not at the end of the day. I guess I do want to say that I would love for this product to be successful. And that's actually, I should have said that about everybody who's gone so far. These are all products I would like to actually see in the world. But I think about the amount of Amazon boxes that we recycle every week, and I can't understand why they don't use some kind of reusable packaging or something like that. So I guess that's something that I think you guys need to be able to figure out in there, is like the end of the road environmental benefit when everything's actually taken into account, so that you could show that unless you've already done that. That could be my question.
No, that's absolutely a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. We definitely want to do a full environmental assessment to make sure that we ourselves are not contributing more, because that's our whole intention. So, we are focused on plastic, but also carbon and all these other things are important to us. One thing I would say is that we want to focus on the local community. So transportation costs would theoretically, or we're hoping that we'll see that they're significantly less compared to, large brands.
Yeah. And then the other comment, which you could respond to as a question if you have anything to add, is just like, you are trying to change consumer behavior in a pretty significant way. And that's a pretty huge education and marketing challenge. So I'm curious how much you've thought about that.
Yeah, 100%. So our target market that we're focusing on first, and we've been doing a lot of research on, are Gen Zs. So we know that their willingness to pay is significantly higher than other generations. I think it's 73%, somewhere around there, of Gen Zs are willing to pay more for a sustainable product. So that doesn't necessarily, I think one could make an assumption that they would be willing to change their behavior based on that. But that's something that we want to look into as well.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
From our StartR Inclusion group, I have the pleasure to introduce Cedric Page from Rollo. And Cedric was also a finalist for the GSEA student competition last month.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cedric Page. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Rolla. I'm also a UC San Diego graduate student, and I'm incredibly excited to be here. So let's stop for a second and ask a question. Why are we all here right now? And by that, I mean, why are we here at Demo Day over Zoom instead of having it in person? Well, the answer to that question is simple. StartR, like many organizations around the country, have embraced the online community. However, online community doesn't necessarily mean optimized digital engagement. Associations around the country are finding that although the switch to virtual can be convenient, it also comes with its challenges. Members at home doing remote work tend to have lower engagement, not only with the organization as a whole, but also their members. And any organization with low member collaboration and participation is doomed to fail. So going into the digital age, how are organizers communicating with their members? The answer to that is that they're using fragmented means of communication. They'll use Eventbrite to send event updates. They'll use GroupMe to foster communication between their members, and they'll use Facebook to send news updates and Slack to manage projects. However, there's also no way for members to connect with each other outside of these mediums. That's introducing Rolla. Rolla is a one-stop shop digital hub for all things community. We aggregate your events, your social media, your custom links, and any other digital resources you can think of. We allow you to communicate directly and instantly with your members through news updates and dynamic push notifications. And we also allow your members to connect with each other through a modern directory of social media contact information. So here's a quick walkthrough through Rolla. We have our organization's homepage right here. As you can see, you can pretty much include any social media account you can think of. Anyone you can think of, I guarantee you we have it, and we have plans to include more. Also, any custom links for your organization, feel free to add. This hub right here is the epitome of all things informative. If you want to know something about an organization, you go to their Rolla profile, and I guarantee you it'll be there. Switching over to the events part, you go in, you create an event, you name it, you date it, you create it, and it sends an instant notification to all of your members, allowing them to RSVP instantly. Not only that, but you can go into that event and see who's going to attend. Switching over to news updates, we have dynamic news updates. Feel free to create a news update about all the hot topics within your organization, updating your members instantly. And all the way to the right, we have what an individual profile looks like for the average user. You go to an individual profile through either an event or a group, and you can connect with the members in your organization seamlessly through any social platform that they deem fit. So some of our key metrics that we're proud of, we've been accepted into 3 different accelerator programs within the last 6 months. We've concluded one, which is StartR Inclusion. We learned a lot from that. We're also finishing up a new chip in Blackstone Launchpad right Some metrics that we have is we've just received our first paid commitment from an association with over 2,200 members. We're constantly implementing new features in order to optimize professional organizations. During our beta stage, we've managed to garner over 30 beta organizations on the app with a combined combined for over 2,500 individual users. And we fostered over 100,000 connections within the app. Connections being users going on and connecting with other people through Instagrams, Twitter, Snapchat, etc. So our go-to-market strategy. Through our research, we've learned that there are over 34,000 professional associations in our country. We literally found out that there's pretty much an organization for anything. Yesterday, the team and I had a really good laugh because we learned that there's an organization in Texas that's solely dedicated to watermelon. You can leave it to the Texans to be passionate about fruit. But we've kind of learned that through this need for a community, we have a total addressable market of about $30 billion. And we plan to infiltrate that at the beginning by targeting 2,400 specific associations, all with membership sizes under 1,000, with median revenue around $300,000. In January, we brought on Rich Park, who was a seasoned SaaS advisor. Rich has taken companies just like ours from startup phase to hundreds of millions of dollars in exits with his sales experience, and we are lucky to benefit from the experience that he brings to the table. We are currently in attraction stage. We have 4 associations right now in our pipeline outside of the one that's already gave us our verbal commitment. We have 100% conversion from intro call to demo. So every single association that we meet with, they all get to the demo phase. And then we have 2 contracts right now in negotiation. We plan to have at least 20,000 annual contracts before July. We want to continually improve our integrations and features until then. And by January 2023, we want to expand to corporations, colleges, any type of organization or association that has members. We want to be able to implement Rolla there so that they can foster more collaboration and connect with their members more seamlessly. So Rolla's competitive advantage. Right now, the association engagement space is pretty taken up by outdated suites such as Wild Apricot and Chambermaster. All of these sites are antiquated and their users are unhappy. Our very first paid customer, our verbal commitment, was a user of Wild Apricot who left them for us. We stand out because we allow our members to connect with each other. We're optimized for mobile, which these other platforms are not. We're also a single platform. We're not white labeled, and we offer opportunities for seamless API integrations, allowing for different organizations to customize their profiles as they see fit. So this is our team. We have garnered a team of hyper talented individuals with that very diverse skill sets. You have me, I'm the techie of the group, the CTO. You have my co-founder, Tyler Sells, who is a business whiz. You have Ben Oldham, who's also a business whiz. Tyler and Ben both graduated from TKC, the King's College in New York, for business degrees. You have Liana Reynolds and Tyler Gephardt, our product manager and our marketing and design genius. We kind of call them our design twins because when they get their head together, there's nothing creative that they can't come up with. And then we have Ayla Gutman, who's our director of sales. She works hand in hand with Rich to drive the value of our company forward. We've also managed to surround ourselves with industry leaders such as Rich Park, who is a SaaS veteran. Talked about him earlier. We have Jenny Lewis, who's also a SaaS veteran. Patrick Sells, who is the CIO of a gigantic bank in New York, and Barry Marshall, who is the CIO of P5 Collaborative. Barry is very helpful in helping us get the structure of our company down. So our ask, we're right now in our pre-seed round, seeking to raise $400,000. Rolla is very much product focused right now. We would use these funds to reinforce me on the development side, bring in some fresh dev talent to help us accomplish the goals that we would like to accomplish. We want to bring in some different API integrations. I want to implement different machine learning models and also give our associations a chance for advanced advertising, which would optimize the organization's chance at bringing in new members. In order to do this, we would need to optimize our development, and we need more than me to do that. We also have some miscellaneous charges like sales and marketing that we want to use the $400K for, and then also some operations. And that concludes my presentation, and I stand by for any questions.
Great, thank you, Cedric. Judges, questions? I see Caitlin has your hand up.
Yeah, just to understand the market landscape, how much of the market would you have to convert away from your competitors? And then how much of the market are you creating kind of a new market? I mean, I can think of some membership organizations that I belong to that have kind of their own proprietary built, and then some where we've kind of patched different things to create something similar to Rolla, but I don't know that they would necessarily go as far to adopt something like Rolla.
It's a great question. I really appreciate you asking. So what we've learned is that the majority of the associations we reach out to have no engagement space like Rolla. They're using outdated websites. And the ones that we do contact who are using competitors, such as Wild Apricot or Chamber Master, are simply unhappy with their product because it's outdated and the technology they're using is either slow or not as feature rich as Rolla. So we really don't feel like there's any other, I guess, competitor out there that's offering what we offer.
Okay. Yeah. So they're not making any improvements. I wonder if they're not getting any new investments. Interesting.
None
Okay.
of those platforms are in active development.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just go because I don't know how to raise my hand electronically. Hi, Cedric. My name's Olin. So usually great SaaS products have some type of insight to the customer or the market that no one else has. And what I'm hearing from you is your differentiation are around features. What is the deeper insight that's really different in the way you're approaching it compared to incumbents?
So my background is that's a great question. No, I appreciate you asking. My background is in data science. I specialize in predictive modeling. And what I think what sets Rolla apart is our machine intelligence aspirations. Imagine being in an organization of 10,000 people, you don't want to have to network with every single person to find your match. There are algorithms out there that I could implement, that I will implement, that would tell you who in that organization you can connect with to enhance your life on both a personal and professional scale. Just take the StartR Demo Day competition, for example. There's about 100 people in this chat room right now. I could connect people through predictive modeling with other people who would be interested in the exact same things without having everyone have to communicate with each other. So I feel like that's what Rolla has to offer that's special, is our machine intelligence aspirations.
Good answer. Thanks.
And Jason, do you have any other questions?
I think those covered my questions. I guess my comment would be social media has been around for a long time. A lot of these kinds of tools, as people have mentioned. So it seems like winning could just be a generational change to a much more usable platform that works really well and is on the right interface. So I was kind of getting that out of your presentation. So I guess the question could be, you talked about AI and matching, but how much of it is just having a better product than stuff that's out there today and dissatisfaction with the existing solutions?
Could you repeat that a little, Jason? I didn't catch that last part.
I was saying, how much of success in this do you think is just going to be having a better user interface, a more usable product than stuff that's out there today? Since this is social media, social tools are pretty mature. It's a pretty mature space.
Yeah, I think that our success has been mounted already without advanced machine intelligence algorithms. If you go back to the slide of me discussing our key metrics, we've already facilitated over 100,000 connections within the app, and that's just people connecting with each other through different social media platforms that you're mentioning right now. So I would agree with you. I think our success can be also attributed to how we kind of integrate different social platforms rather than separating them like other platforms do.
Okay, thank you.
It's my pleasure to now introduce StartR veteran. TrueVote is the company name, and the founder is Zach Doherty. Zach?
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I'd love to get on Rolla as a social media founder myself. So I'm Zach Doherty, founder of TrueVote, which is a social media platform for increasing trustworthiness, accountability, and effectiveness in our political system by allowing Americans to become more informed and engaged about politics. The idea for TrueVote originated when I was voting in the 2018 midterm elections, and like a lot of other Americans, had trouble finding basic information about candidates running for state and local office. And so as a US Marine with a passion for serving my country, it's important to me that people act responsibly in choosing who they put in power, which is ultimately what inspired me to pursue this vision. So we've all heard the stories. Traditional social media is tearing our democracy apart. The figures on the left quantify the sheer magnitude of misinformation that exists today on social media. But I would say paramount to that is the extent to which this misinformation has actually contributed to real negative effects in our political outcomes. And so 4 primary examples of this are foreign subversion, such as interference in the 2016 presidential election, misinformation amplification, such as the spread of COVID-19 anti-vax conspiracy theories, political censorship, including the subjective flagging and removal of particular online users' posts, and civil unrest culminating in the 2021 Capitol riots. And so what these examples show is that not only have traditional social media platforms made our democracy more vulnerable, that they've actually contributed to trends in democratic backsliding. And so the problem is that fundamentally these platforms were built for entertainment. And as they became more expansive and pervasive, they became the de facto place for online political discourse, even though they were never intended for that purpose. And so their business models have allowed for the creation of misinformation farms, partisan echo chambers. They've caused credible users' posts and content to go unseen. And it causes politicians' messaging to be disjointed across multiple platforms as they try to reach their varied audiences. And so the solution to all these problems is TrueVote. TrueVote provides Americans with a comprehensive, simplified, trustworthy space to learn about and engage with politics for a bipartisan audience. And so there are 4 overarching solutions that TrueVote provides to the problems I identified. First, it'll include authentication protocols that will verify all users as US residents in order to eliminate the preponderance of misinformation that we see on the internet. Second, it will feature socially conscious algorithms that feed users trustworthy and balanced content. Third, it will allow experts to reach wider audiences in order to help spread informed opinions. And then lastly, it'll allow politicians to easily synchronize their messaging onto one concise platform. So on the one hand, TrueVote delivers a particular set of value propositions to civilian users, such as the ability to create profiles where they can express their political alignments, the ability to collectivize with like-minded users around causes that they're passionate about in order to support opportunities for civic activism, and the ability to be informed through fact sheets where they can research candidates or incumbents for political office. On the other hand, TrueVote delivers a separate set of value propositions to politician users themselves, such as the ability to better connect with their constituents through streaming features where they can host town halls or debates, a data feature where they can access select responsibly curated user data in order to better speak to their constituents' priorities and interests and represent those interests. And then again, the ability to be more organized as they can represent their agenda on a concise platform and page. So this slide speaks to TrueVote's competitive landscape. And as you can see, lots of players in the mix. And so TrueVote's competitive advantage is that it operates across 5 distinct industry verticals. And even though there's a lot of competitors in each of those respective spaces, there are none that offer a solution as comprehensive and seamless as TrueVote across all 5. And so TrueVote's business model is freemium, which will draw on 2 primary tiers as stated. So you'll have your free civilian users on the one hand, and then your paid political subscribers on the other. On the latter, that will be further subdivided into 3 separate categories with increasing levels of functionality and respective pricing plans. And so to support that freemium business model, TrueVote's roadmap will pursue an aggressive growth strategy focused on an echeloned approach to acquisition, first targeting civilian users, then politicians, then activists, and finally enterprise with a particular emphasis on media, all the while increasing TrueVote's core functionalities in order to cater to those respective market segments. So the near-term need for TrueVote is to launch its pilot ahead of the 2022 midterm elections, which we plan to do this summer. And after extensive market research have identified a pretty ideal Orange County as just a great market for that, and have already begun coordinating with the Newport Beach and Huntington Beach city councils. And ultimately, the results from that pilot will optimize TrueVote for subsequent statewide and nationwide rollouts as we look to scale across the US. And so based on preliminary market research, predominantly through the Pew Research Center, and then Higher Ground Labs, which is a political tech accelerator. The market for TrueVote presents a $3.6 billion opportunity with just a fraction of political stakeholders. And if you look at this past election cycle, that space has grown immensely and shows trends that it will continue to do so. This is TrueVote's team. Prior to founding TrueVote, I've spent 6 years in the Marine Corps as a communications and information warfare officer, which has informed my solution. And prior to that, I received my Bachelor of Arts from Dartmouth College, where I studied political science. I've also recruited a deep bench of advisors, including New York State Senator Alessandra Biaggi, each of whom have validated TrueVote's concept. And so at this stage, TrueVote is seeking to raise $500,000 in pre-seed funding to support launching the pilot that I just talked about, and those funds will be allocated as such. So thank you all very much for taking the time to listen to my pitch, and I look forward to the opportunity to partner with you in helping to protect and promote U.S. democracy. And I'd love to answer any of your questions at this time.
Olin, I can see you're waiting.
Trying to find a way of making it a concise question. I love the direction you're going. I think we all have grave concerns about our nation and our politics, and it's wonderful to see someone care about that. The problem you've identified is the platform is oriented around entertainment, which is turned into engagement, that's turned into enragement. And so if enragement is what politicians are motivating their base to get out and vote, how does your solution address what your paying customers need, which is highly engaged or enraged voters that proselytize their particular position?
That's a fantastic question. And as someone, again, very concerned about our electorate, very sensitive to that, and do not want to become a platform that would, incite that type of enragement. And so looking at the beachhead market and the types of users that we want to target, there's a substantial portion, again, that are frustrated by the political divide that we have, if you look at just the country as a whole, you'll find that most people, there's a regression to the mean in terms of political beliefs. And so what we see in the media is obviously the most hyperbolized version of that. And online, again, because social media gives greater weight to people that do have more extreme opinions. But the majority of Americans are not there in their beliefs or the way they express themselves online. And so being able to capture that segment of disenfranchised voters, citizens, social media users that do fall in the middle and are, again, care about democracy and want that more nuanced understanding of, I might be a Democrat, but I have some conservative beliefs or vice versa. Being able to speak to that segment and starting with them and then expanding from there. And again, by giving them a platform that naturally allows them to sparse out the extreme content and will do it for them because it is socially responsible in its mission, which is something fundamentally competitors cannot pivot to because their business models, again, are not built around politics, is where I would differentiate myself.
It'd be fun to have a beer with you.
Yeah, please.
So I have a little question about neutrality. I like that idea of, this is a safe space for those of, the voters that are somewhere in the middle or maybe lean to one side, but have different values and beliefs that cross lines, because it is very polarizing. It's hard to find that. But how do you remain neutral? Like, how do you, because you're not curating the content, right? But you are editing it in some ways, or you're verifying it. So how if I was a voter, how do I trust you for not leaning one direction, especially if you're selling this also directly to politicians and their parties? If it ends up being more of one party represented and then less of another, how do you keep people from feeling like this is leaning one way or the other?
Also a great question. So, and this is the idea again originated where, I was trying to look up facts about people running for office, couldn't find anything, shoddy Facebook pages, really just wanted basically, where do you stand? Where do you fall on issues? And, options like Ballotpedia, they're kind of out there, but it's just hard to sort through. So the origin for the idea came, how do you operationalize someone's political stances on issues and make that digestible and accessible to the average American who doesn't have the time or attention span to look through, pages of voting records and things of that nature. And so the core functionality and where TrueVote started was creating that space where it is purely objective. Naturally, it would be easier for incumbents who have a voting record where you could use APIs to operationalize that data. And it would essentially display in a neutral way by standardizing that for all politicians, here's where they fall on a left-right scale. And so that would be the objective piece to keep it neutral. The question then became, well, okay, that's great, but how do you keep people coming back? Because elections are cyclical. Why are people going to care about politics day in, day out? And so that's where the social function comes in. And again, I want TrueVote to be a space where people can have different opinions and have discussions and be able to engage with the opposing ideas without silencing or censoring people. And again, being able to have that nuanced understanding. And so there's naturally going to be an element of disagreement or discourse that comes with that. But again, allowing people to learn and then also engage and have that, but in a way that's designed to be responsible and productive. Again, that's the nature of democracy, is the concept.
So I don't know. Sorry, I'm just asking this really quickly because you just brought up something. So the seasonality of it is something that came to mind. Although, I know that students, people who are, studying like either in university or whatever, they will go to resources like Ballotpedia. So have you thought about this being something that could be a subscription for specific universities or schools and used as an educational tool so that you can kind of eliminate the seasonality, right? It's a place where they can, where students can research.
Absolutely. So that would be the enterprise focus, and yes, very much. And again, looking at who my target market segment is for this, there's a very specific niche of people that are going to be interested in politics day in, day out. And so the people that are in education would very much fit that. I would say the way that I envision expanding this to the average American would be that groups feature. And so what I see is kind of the mass appeal of this product is everyone is passionate about some political cause, whether that's gun control, abortion, same-sex marriage, business taxes, pick your sword that you're willing to die on. And so the ability to come together in a group with like-minded people who are equally inspired by that and be able to, promote that and have that very clearly demonstrated to your politicians where they can see, again, and curating this data, but if they could see, 20% of my electorate cares about this issue, maybe that's something I should speak to or represent better. That would be a way to again, promote continued engagement so that it would create a more transparent, accountable, and responsive feedback mechanism in our politics.
Any more questions?
I'll just offer a quick comment because Olin and Caitlin captured what I wanted to say much better than I ever could. But I think the social media focus, and I a lot of my career was at MySpace. I think the social media focus means that the algorithms and the audience engagement is directly competing with your mission, is sort of my perspective. But I would suggest thinking about, and again, I'm not doing very good at making this a question, but I would think about, like Caitlin was sort of going in the direction of what is sort of a tool, a SaaS solution that you can provide that there's a direct need that can be fulfilled, and then you kind of bridge from there. For example, in education, there's like Parent Square, which part of Aries, that our teachers and our schools communicate with parents about. When I go to reach out to my representatives in Congress, it's all email and really rudimentary stuff. So like a platform that facilitated ongoing dialogue with my politicians, my elected officials, that could be a really interesting thing. And then that opens the doors to some of the things you're thinking about. So I guess the question would be if you thought about any of that, but I know we're out of time too. So I don't feel like you need to respond to that.
Thank you. That's a great concept. And I'll definitely look into that. Thank you.
Zach, thanks so much. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So we're on to our last presentation, but I do want to remind the audience there will be an audience vote as well as a judge's vote for 2 awards. But our last team is from StartR Rady alumni, and we're going to have Govind talk about his company, Vogel.
Thank you, Kim. It's a great pleasure for me to talk about my company, Vogel Privacy, and our mission is to build a new privacy-centric world. So let me introduce the founding team. My name is Govind Krishnamurthy. I'm a privacy product person. Most recently, I was at Cruise. I built their privacy infrastructure there. As Kim mentioned, I'm a Rady School alum. My co-founder is Samir Rayani, who most recently was at Dolcera, a global analytics company, and he's a Stanford alum. So what's the problem that we are trying to address? Data collection is rampant, and it's a global problem. And as more and more services go onto the cloud, this problem will just get worse. Most of us don't understand data privacy at all. And even for the people who understand, it's an extremely cumbersome process and time-consuming process. There are privacy laws, but these laws have loopholes. And essentially, these laws allow the data collecting companies like Facebook to maintain status quo. All this leads to great frustration and thereby a pain point that we are trying to address. 60% of the users are now willing to pay for a privacy service. Lack of privacy is not without consequences, you know. Data loss is money lost, and everybody knows about all the attacks and how much money is lost because of how data is stolen and so on. So what are we building? We are building the Vogel privacy platform already in production. And the centerpiece of our platform is our Vogel app. We launched it a year ago on both iOS and Android. And we have over 12,000 users and with a net promoter score of over 9. And 25% of our users are already sharing our app with their friends and family. And we have a customer acquisition cost between $2 and $3 right now. Essentially, we are putting privacy control in the palm of your hands. With one click of a button, you can control what Facebook knows about you, what Alexa is probably listening to you and your wife or spouse in your bedroom and storing that voice data, what LinkedIn knows about you when you're changing jobs, whether your information is in the dark web. And most important feature that we have that nobody else has is the ability to lock your credit file in all 3 major credit agencies in this country. So once you lock your credit, nobody can open up a credit card in your name. All this lowers the risk, particularly credit risk. And we have a bunch of other features on the anvil in our roadmap. To help with the adoption, we are building the world's largest privacy database. We are already covering about 1.2 million apps. And this will allow to make privacy simple. It'll easily tell you what each app is collecting about you and what reason and how much risk is associated with that particular app. We also have an active blog, and we already have some top Google search articles, particularly in the smart home space. So with that said, how are we going to grow? As you said, using a product, our app inherently lowers your risk, overall risk, particularly credit risk. We want to pass on that benefit to you in terms of a credit card. So given a credit card, if you have lower risk, we feel that lower risk will offer you better benefits, be it as points or cashback or whatever you want. And we feel that this is a great growth strategy for us, and it'll essentially pull gasoline on us and help us get many more users. This is a hot space. And so what's our competition look like? We have tons, several apps, and I've listed a few here. The biggest player is LifeLock, for whom they have about 600 million per quarter, I think, in revenue based on identity, but they are ripe for disruption. And overall, when you look at the space, the services that we offer, we feel are unmatched. We believe privacy is not a one-size-fits-all. We want to give comprehensive suite of privacy tools, depending upon your need. Nobody does credit and identity theft protection like we do. We are able to lock at each of the credit agency, preventing identity theft and rather than just monitoring. And our rewards to lead a privacy positive way, a life is better than others. We want people to enjoy the services, have the cake and eat it too, without compromising their data. So currently when you talk about market size, we are looking at the personal data privacy market, $20 billion market. We are soon jumping into the credit card rewards market, which is about $66 billion. And since privacy is in the middle of every space, when data is being collected, so we have the tools to be a big player in the fraud prevention market too, which is over $100 billion. So we are positioned for great growth based on the services that we are creating. Our revenue model is going to be very simple for our app. $4 a month cost of a Starbucks coffee will give you comprehensive privacy protection. And we also, using our credit card, we want to charge a service fee for getting benefits. We are raising seed, 3 million at a 17 million pre-revenue valuation. We believe that this will give us a runway of about 18 months. We want to achieve the following milestones: 250K installs, and build out our team, establish several partnerships, and after that, go to Series A, prove recurring revenues, and scale. We already have commitments from several angels and Ulu Ventures. We have raised about 600K in commitments right now. In summary, we are a successful team with significant experience in this area, raising 3 million in investment, seed investment. 600K of that is already committed. We are building a pro-privacy financial system. The Vogel app is live with 12,000 installs already. So we already have execution skills, and we have demonstrated that. And we have another product, the Privacy Advisor, which is also live. Check us out. Our website is vogelme.com, and our emails are right here. So thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to answering any of your questions. Thanks.
Thank you. And we're ready for our last round of questions from our judges.
I love this. It's addressing a really big market, and it's pretty wide open. I also think it's really intriguing that you're using a credit card as a point of entry. And that's a separate business, almost like launching a credit card. Granted, it's easier now than it's ever been before. Mm-hmm. Have you thought about going to market through an existing credit card issuer, or what's your traction, or how are you thinking about scaling this through the credit card play?
Yeah, Samir, maybe you can take that and answer.
Sure. Hi, this is Samir. Yes, so there are multiple entry points on the financial services side, right? Like, you partner with an existing credit card provider, use one of these API type services and launch a credit card, etc. Or partner with one of these BNPL providers or one of these neobanks. There's just too many options in the financial services space. And we have been systematically working through that list right now and open to advice. Our current sort of working assumption is that it will be easiest to launch a credit card with a rewards program of its own, a standalone service. That seems to be the easiest option right now, but nothing is super easy in the financial services space. And so it's going to be step by step. But right now, what we are sensing right now is, because we have traction with the product, we have all these users, it will be much easier to take this to a bank or a neobank and work with them. But right now, our thinking is we'll go with our own branded product in the short term and see how it plays out over time.
I really like the dual approach. That's good.
Thank
you. Other questions?
I guess I would ask about the sort of the moat question. What is your winner take all strategy for this, so that if people can just plug in and lock down your credit report and your social accounts and that kind of thing, how do you make sure that people are using you to do that, and there's not 100 of these applications out there?
Yeah, so great question. So what we have built is not easy. It takes time, particularly the credit card lock is a process. Nobody has done it. We have done it, and it's not easy. There's a significant moat right there. Getting our app approved in Apple because we are offering the feature was a big deal. We had to prove a lot. We have already shown execution skills, and we are also building AI tools that will help potentially in the future give zero-day privacy, like zero-day security. So if you get a new service, you need to understand what kind of data that service is collecting and how to protect yourself based on your profile, risk profile. Your risk profile is different from us. And we are slowly building tools and capabilities to do that dynamically. That's something that we are already doing. And essentially, our approach is to take the problem as a whole. And our approach is to go against the norm, which is, let me tell you what is privacy. We need to understand your needs and adapt toward your needs wherever you are in your digital life. And I think that is going to be a great differentiator, and it's difficult for other people to just come and mimic it right away. And our entry point is at $4. And once we are there and we've gotten the customer, I think we are low enough that once we keep satisfying the needs, there'll be enough retention that there's no need to go to a different product because we are hopefully satisfying all the needs of privacy, right from within your home to your digital life outside.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting if you can become sort of underlying infrastructure for these kinds of privacy opt-outs between companies, and then that's where Olin's idea of going to the big credit card companies, so that's an added benefit of them, that then, this starts to get locked in as the de facto platform for this kind of privacy control. So,
excellent. We have already gotten requests from people who are friends who have companies for that, and we are in the process of creating portals, privacy portals, where we can regulate the data flow, because the laws allow you to make requests anyway, through a phone call, through an email, through everything. So that actually causes a lot of problems for businesses, and us being in that position to regulate those requests is a big deal, and we are investigating that.
Okay, any last questions before we wrap up? Caitlin, do you have a question?
I was just going to ask about what your exit strategy would be, especially if you're now talking about kind of being a universal platform for the credit card companies.
Well, a great question again. So we thought our product would be something very attractive to a company like Apple, for example, right? I mean, Apple values privacy, but it doesn't have control over how data is being used and misused by all the apps and all the services that they enable. So that could be one potential exit. Samir, do you have any other thoughts of how?
I mean, again, we're just building it out, so exit is hasn't been top of the mind. But Apple, comes up, like a lot of people have suggested to us that Apple would be the one. Now, of course, like yesterday, Google got into the act also. So Google also started making the same noises as Apple. This morning we read about it. So if privacy becomes this competitive thing that everybody wants to talk about, wants to do something about, then all of a sudden, the type of work we do becomes much more attractive to a wide range of players, right? Be it the Googles or the Apples or even some of the others. Like, but overall, we feel that there is a whole ecosystem building up right now. There is DuckDuckGo, the privacy browser, and then there is all the the apps that people use to manage their passwords, password manager apps. There's privacy.com type credit cards, and then there are tools like ours. So if privacy becomes like a top level item, people start thinking about it, people start using Apple products and all these other products, and we become part of that mix, then it may become a really large market. If we become an underlying infrastructure player, like what some of you suggested, again, that's a pretty big opportunity. So hopefully we can even stay independent and become an infrastructure provider or a key player in the in the ecosystem in the 2020s. We're thinking big right now. We believe we have kind of like captured the zeitgeist, but time will tell.
Well, thank you, Vogel team, and thank you, judges, for all your great questions. So now, judges, please fill out the judging form, and then I opened up a breakout room, so please join that. And we will be right back with the announcements of both the Judges Award, and we'll allow the audience to do our Audience of Choice Award.
Yes, so thank you, everyone. And I'm just going to launch the poll. You will have 1 minute to vote for which StartR company presentation was your favorite. So I'm going to launch the poll for 1 minute. And in the meantime, our Executive Director, Tim Schwartz, is going to talk about some of the up and coming seed programs.
So yes, just a few announcements for you. Our next round of StartR applications are due on February 24th. And I think you've gotten a flavor for the programs. First, there's inclusion, which particularly supports underrepresented students, and there must be an underrepresented student as a part of the leadership team. Second is StartR Impact, which focuses primarily on businesses with a social impact. And third, there is StartR Rady, where we must have a Rady grad student as a part of the team. So we encourage you to apply, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact any one of the members of our team. Secondly, we have our Triton Innovation Challenge coming up. This will be the 10th Triton Innovation Challenge, which focuses on solutions to environmental problems. So we encourage staff, faculty, and particularly students to propose solutions to substantial problems in our world, in our environmental world. There will be over $17,000 in prize money. And we have 2 information sessions coming up. One is scheduled for tomorrow at noon. Please let us know. Actually, we'll probably put it in the chat, the link to sign up for that. That will be a virtual session. And then we're going to have an in-person / hybrid session on March 1st. That session will also include networking, so you can meet with other interested students, stakeholders that may want to form a team. And that again is on March 1st. It will be in the multi-purpose room 2 at Rady, but we will also have a hybrid component, so you can join us through Zoom for that second information session for the Triton Innovation Challenge. And finally, SEED, as Dean Ordonez mentioned, private support is critical and essential to our programs. There are 2 areas I wanted to emphasize. One is a catalyst fund. You can see that teams such as these need resources to be able to move on and advance their projects, particularly before they're investable, whether it's to build a prototype, go to a critical conference, things that can cost them some money. And we really, really desperately need to provide this kind of support to our teams. Secondly, we are looking at a venture interns opportunity, and this is where we support small startups. Many of them are UCSD-based startups, but not exclusively, where they have very interesting defined scoped projects. So it could be developing the first pro forma financials for a company. It could be developing market or digging more deeply into market research for a company. We put these intern opportunities out to Rady graduate students across all of our disciplines, MBA, finance, business analytics, and accounting. And we would like to offer the students that pick up these projects on behalf of the startup. So it's an experiential opportunity for the students we'd like to offer stipends for these students. These are just two examples of very impactful kinds of programs that the center is running for which we need private investment. So think about that, and please feel free to reach out to us if you have any ideas. And Diana, how are we doing on? Oh, here we go. We're ready to announce the Audience Choice Award goes to Vogel. Vogel will receive a modest award of $250. Congratulations to our two founders who have joined us, and one of which is a Rady alum. Good job.
Thank you very much on behalf of both Samir and myself.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. That was quite a surprise. Thank you.
Great. Do we have our judges back in the room?
It must be a tough decision. So you'll see an announcement at the end of this program. Our next StartR Demo Day will be on June 1st, likely in the late afternoon. So I do encourage current teams to attend. We hopefully will have a space for you to have a table there. And please come and encourage the next StartR cohorts. Oh, this is a nail biter. Should we start a pool, a little betting pool on the side? I don't think that would be very ethical.
All right, it looks like our judges are back, and maybe it was a tough decision. Kim, do you have the results of
Yes,
our judges?
it was a tough decision, but our judges' vote was for Vogel. So congratulations, Vogel.
Wow. Congratulations,
That
Vogel.
is a pleasant surprise. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I think the other teams were exceptional. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
And Diane, did you guys already do the audience vote?
We did, and it was Vogel as well.
Wow. Well, wonderful. So we will be sure to get your prize money to you, but we'd like to have the audience reach out to any and all of our StartR teams. By the way, I just want to say, I think all the teams did such a great job tonight. So thank you to the teams. Thank you to our staff. So Karen and Diana, you did such an excellent job tonight. And our faculty director, Vish, thank you very much as well. And to our judges and to the audience who showed up. I know it's hard to do yet another Zoom call, but we are very much looking forward to hopefully being in person coming up in June. And thank you so much to our sponsors who really help us literally put this program together, as well as all of the mentors. Each team with StartR has a mentor assigned. We also have mentors for impact and inclusion. So it really does take a village to do this, and we appreciate all your help.
Thank you, everybody. We look forward to seeing you in June 1st afternoon, if not sooner.
Okay,
Thank
good
you so
night.
much. It was a great time. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank
Thanks
you.
for including me.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
hosts and judges. This was awesome. Thank you very much.
A lot of good teams didn't win, so
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough decision. I mean, everyone was amazing. So
and our opinion doesn't matter. What matters is the market. So go forth
100%.
and conquer.
100%. I
Thank you so much.
second that.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.